All right, bike's ready to roll. Karen's riding her Vado Turbo 3.0. I'm riding my Specialized S-Works Creo SL. We're going to do 41 miles. It's sunny, but it rained last night, so the roads are a little wet, but we'll deal with that. See you in a bit. All right, so I think I'll bring you along on the ride with us and kind of show you what we're doing. Out of our driveway onto Ivy Hill Road. We live just like 150 yards off of Barnardsville Highway, also known as Highway 197. So we have this steep little downhill to start every ride. It's about an 8% gradient for about 150 yards. Of course, at the finish of every ride, we typically have to come up that. And you may have noticed that stop sign / yield sign. In some states, Idaho and Colorado, you can treat stop signs as yield signs, which makes perfect sense. Anyway, we're on to Highway 197, Barnardsville Highway, just for like a quarter mile. Now we're taking off onto a little branch off of it called Stockton Branch Road. It's about 2 miles downhill, gradual. The route we're going to do is basically the first 10 miles are kind of gradual downhill with just a few little rollers, a little bit of uphill now and then. So we're on Stockton Branch Road, and we're heading down underneath I-26, Interstate 26, which if we got on the interstate and headed towards Asheville, this exit right here is like exit 13, and into Asheville is like exit 24. So we're only about 10, 11 miles from Asheville here. Going under I-26, also known as Highway 19, we're going to take a left on what's called Old Mars Hill Highway. So I guess before the interstate was there, before Highway 19 was there, all you had was this highway, a little 2-lane called Mars Hill Highway. Now it's called Old Mars Hill Highway. And so we're going on to that, and it parallels the interstate. So it's right next to it, but it's the old highway. After about 2.5 miles on Old Mars Hill Highway, we peeled off and took a right onto what's called Flat Creek Church Road. And it's just a little bit of a climb here for like 100 meters. And at the top is Flat Creek Church. And man, in the Christmas time, they decorate big time. In fact, we should drive over there one of these nights after dark to take a look at it. This church is just always, they have trees, the bushes, the displays, they go all out for Christmas decorations. So it's really beautiful. But after you top off this little climb, just a couple hundred meters off of the old Mars Hill Highway and onto Flat Creek Church Road, it's just a beautiful downhill now for like the next 3 miles. It's just gradual downhill the whole way. I typically have my e-bike shut off. I don't need any assist when you're going downhill. And so it's just gorgeous. So at the end of that 3 miles, we're coming up to another one of those stop yield signs. And we take a good look, make sure nothing's coming. And I think the reason that those states have that law is, cyclists have 360 vision. You can look in every direction. You can hear if there's any cars or trucks approaching, and so a couple states have said it's stupid for bicyclists to stop at stop signs and have to start again if there's nothing coming. So that's kind of the theory. So anyway, we're on New Stock Road now. We go about 2 miles, and again, it just winds downhill. We're actually heading to the French Broad River, and so gravity's our friend, and everything's heading downhill. And after about 2 miles onto a New Stock Road, we hit Highway 25. We have to cross this 4-lane highway. There's a stoplight. And usually our bikes don't set off the sensors, so we have to kind of sneak across. Up a little climb, and then we're going to take a right here onto Martin Ford Road. It's just a beautiful little back road, really hardly any traffic ever. It kind of parallels that Highway 25, and so if anybody's trying to get anywhere, they're on Highway 25. This little back road really just connects homes and ranches and farms. And so again, mostly downhill, gradual downhill, some rollers, but just beautiful place to ride. Rarely see any traffic. And so we love it. It's just kind of like our own private bike trail. And it's a great way to start a ride because if you haven't noticed, we're doing mostly a lot of downhill. And so if you want to kind of warm up and you're not feeling all that chipper on a cool day, you just kind of ease on down for the first 8 or 10 miles of this ride, first half hour. So we're getting off of Martin Ford Road. We're going to take a left onto Lower Shepherd Branch Road. And then I think that's coming up here shortly, right around. We kind of go over this little roller, and then it's just a bomb down this other side to another one of those stop/yield signs. And we keep taking lefts when we get down here, and working our way downhill towards the French Broad River. Off to my left is a little creek that, man, the flood, unfortunately the camera doesn't, I can't do a 90-degree turn with it and take a look down that valley, but there's a creek down there with a lot of debris, a lot of destruction. But up here on the road, everything's kosher and everything's good. And you can see we're just rolling downhill. With the bike shut off, it's just soft pedaling. You're putting just enough effort in it to keep rolling. But it's just a gradual, like 2-3% descent. And here we come up to that corner where we're going to cross this little river bridge. It's always real rough. There's that stop yield sign. And we're taking a left on what's called Lower Shepherd Branch Road. Just gorgeous back here. In the summertime, it's just green and lush. Little creek running off. It's on the left-hand side of the road there. We don't go very far on this road, and then we take another gradual left. We'll see it here in a second. And we're going to go from Lower Shepherd Branch Road down to Lower Flat Creek Road. I use Ride with GPS, so before we go out on a lot of these rides, there we go, another one of those stop yield signs. Taking our left onto Lower Flat Creek Road. And now we have about 2.5 miles to get down to the French Broad River on this little back road. But I do map out a lot of these routes because that way they're on my Garmin bike computer, or I can just keep them on my phone, and I have my phone mounted on my handlebars, so you can see the map of where to turn, how far it is, where the hills are. And so it kind of takes any guesswork out of it. But we've ridden this route so many times now, I don't have to have it. And again, we're just winding our way down on this Lower Flat Creek Road. And we're going to come up to a stop sign here shortly. I think I let the camera run here for quite a while because this is just so much fun rolling through here. It's just beautiful road, relatively very little traffic, if any. A little water on the lens there just because the roads were wet from rain the night before, but it's in the 50s here, and so Turbo Girl and I, she's right behind me. She likes me to take the lead, and she can kind of draft and just follow, make sure we know where we're going, and so she's right behind me. There's our stop yield sign coming up here. So if we didn't stop or yield and we went straight, we'd go right into the French Broad River. Got to get some water off our lens there. And so there's our stop sign, and we do stop because there are cars coming, and so we don't want to do something stupid and get hurt. So we do stop, yield to oncoming traffic, and there they go. Maybe one more. And we roll on. So now we're on what's called Old Marshall Highway. So the old Mars Hill Highway, which takes you from Asheville up to Mars Hill, this road takes you from Asheville to Marshall. And it just follows, there's on my left is the French Broad River. And so it's like 7 miles from here to our next turn, and then about 2 more miles to Marshall. So this is called the old Marshall Highway. And it's flat, relatively flat. It does have a little descent to it here because we are following the river, and as you know, water runs downhill, and so there's a slight gradient, maybe 1%, maybe 2% once in a while. So this is really a fun stretch to ride, especially if your legs are kind of feeling it. If you haven't noticed, so really the first, we're coming up on like 12, 14, 13 miles here, and the roads are getting drier, and they're pretty much dry now, which is great with the sun out. But we're going to take a left here shortly, and then go into Mars Hill, and here we are. Entering Marshall. Marshall was just totally wiped out by the Hurricane Helene flooding because the French Broad River crested, I think it was 27 feet over flood stage, they say. And so there isn't a building structure that wasn't either severely damaged or just destroyed. And so we're going through Marshall here. And it was a weekday. I think this was a Monday. And you can see there's there's workmen, which was encouraging. We're pulling in.
Here we are in Marshall at our old bike shop, Turbo Girl in Dakota. Gonna have a goo and kind of see what progress we're making on your bike store that got flooded out. We'll take a look. Hello. Well, it's good to see sheetrock. The counter is roughed in for the coffee and pastries. The workshop area hasn't been dealt with other than cleaned. That brown mark above the opening for this doorway or whatever it is a high water mark. That's how deep the water was in this bike shop. In most all the buildings in Marshall.
And so we roll on out of town. We like riding through Marshall, and under normal conditions, all the cyclists love stopping at that bike shop, coffee shop, pastries. It's about 20 miles from Asheville, so it's just a perfect ride for people coming up from Asheville. And on a weekend, when we go through Marshall and stop in for a treat, he always has ice water available for free for anybody who needs to stop. And he always says, top off your bottles. Adam Schmidt, the owner. And so it's really a popular spot. And I know a lot of cyclists are missing having that. It's part of their routine now to ride up to Marshall and take a little break, have a treat, and then head on back. There's several ways you can take the flat route along the French Broad River, or there's some back roads that go over some pretty steep, gnarly climbs. And so a lot of riders will take the steep, gnarly climbs to get to Marshall and then kind of ease on back on the old Marshall Highway, which is, like I said, relatively flat or just a gentle gradient. So we're heading out on the west end of Main Street from Marshall. And you can see it's just every building has been affected. I just hope, a lot of construction and remodeling going on. And so hopefully everything will come back over the next, who knows, year or so. It'll be sad if some of the businesses just decide forget it, and we'll see what happens. But so we're leaving Marshall and climbing up. Now we're onto Walnut Creek Road. So this is the climb up out of Marshall. And so for the next mile, a little mile and a half, it's a gradual 6 to 7%, not gradual. It's kind of a little tester of a climb. But usually after stopping for a treat and going up this hill doesn't feel quite so bad because your legs are kind of rested. And a lot of times if we come in the opposite direction, this is a really fun descent. I've had a few videos of me coming down this thing. And so it's just an awesome descent, and it's a challenging but not too difficult climb. We definitely do some tougher climbs, but it's just a fun one to kind of get rolling back out of Marshall, like I said, especially if you've stopped and had a break, and climb on up. We're going to climb up to the top of this. Like I said, it's about a mile, a little over a mile and a half. And then we're going to hit that Highway 25, and there's a stoplight. So we crossed Highway 25 earlier on this ride, and it's a pretty good, busy road. And so when we get to the top here, we've already gone past the light. Now we're on the descent, still on Walnut Creek Road. And if we stayed on this, we'd go up over Walnut Creek climb pass. There's a heck of a ride, kind of a mountain. It's about a 2.5 mile climb, and then a descent to get to the Big Laurel Road and Big Laurel River on the other side of this range. But we're going to take a ride up here on Fisher Lane. Fisher Lane is just a nice little mile and a half road to get us back towards our house. If we didn't take Fisher Lane, I think we have one more option up the road a little bit called Ammons, A-M-N-O-N-S, Ammons Road. But we're going to take this right here onto Fisher Lane. And it's a beautiful little mile and a half stretch. Kind of climbs us back up towards Highway 213. And we're going to hit Highway 213 here in just a few seconds. And so here we are coming in on Fisher Lane, coming up to one of those stop yield signs. And this one we do pay pretty close attention to because this Highway 213 is fairly busy. It leads right up into Mars Hill, and if you go the other way, it goes to Marshall. There's quite a bit of traffic, but we got lucky there today. Nothing coming either way, so we were able to roll on through. We go about a half mile up on Highway 213, and then we get off, take a right here onto Silver Mill Road. And we do like getting off of that Highway 213 fairly quickly because, like I said, it has a bit of traffic. It's got a pretty decent shoulder, and so we stay on that, but we'd rather get off of it. So we've got off onto Silver Mill. Now we're taking a right here onto what's called the Bend of Ivy Road. It's a beautiful little descent. So we dropped down into French Broad River. We climbed up out of it, and now we're kind of dropping back down into a little river valley. And so we're on this Bend of Ivy Road. Somewhere along in here, it turns into Hazel Brook Road. I don't understand, but the name changes, and maybe it's right here at that corner. But now we're going up to the other end, and so we just gone about 2 miles, and now we're going to take a left. And we're kind of getting ready to head back home here. And we're turning onto a road called Bull Creek Road, and it just got re-asphalted last summer. Brand new black asphalt. And as anybody who rides enough knows, there's nothing better than smooth black asphalt. Just like glass. It takes so much less effort, it seems like, to get rolling here. And obviously we're heading west. The sun's behind us, and the east. This was in the morning. And so we went about 3 miles, and now we're coming up to Highway 213 again, that same highway we were on just a little bit ago, but like I said, we got off of it fairly quickly to go on some of these back roads just to avoid the traffic and quieter roads, no cars. But we do have to kind of kick back onto Highway 213 to get back home. So as we come up to this stop/yield sign, we're going to take a right, and we're only a few miles from Mars Hill at this point, turning on to Highway 213. And again, roads are dry, relatively dry. Sun's out. I think it got up in the high 50s by the time this ride ended. And so it's always tough to kind of dress properly because you want to be warm enough so when you roll out on the descents especially, but then when you get onto some of the climbs, you overheat. So it's good to layer up and then open up zippers and take off hats and stuff as needed. So we're back on Highway 213 with that nice shoulder. Again, quite a bit of traffic though. And so we only use this kind of to get from one quiet road to the next quiet road. But we have to take this, and it's only about 1.5 miles, and you'll see here shortly we'll enter right into Mars Hill, and here we come. And it's shady here, so you can see the road's still kind of partially wet because it hasn't had sunlight on it. So kind of the west side of those trees, and so the sun's over on the east side, so a little stretch of wet road yet. And so we're coming up into Mars Hill, and on the left here is a huge athletic complex for Mars Hill University. In fact, pretty much every building you're going to see here for the next minute or so is part of Mars Hill University. Mars Hill University is a little private school, a little over 1,000 enrollment. I'm actually helping to volunteer coach there this last year. I helped coach the men's and women's cross country team, which was a really, really enjoyable time. And now track has started, and so I'm going to help volunteer as an assistant track coach for Mars Hill University. Again, just really cool to be around young people that are working hard, trying to improve themselves. And so, yeah, all these buildings here are part of the campus, and so the highway goes right through campus, and the university basically is Mars Hill. There's some nice residential areas that, I'm sure most of the people that live in Mars Hill probably work either through the university or involved in it, or some of the areas around. There's some restaurants, novelty shops, some little bakeries, coffee shops, things like that support the local economy. But we're climbing up through the campus. There's a new student union there on the left getting built, so that's kind of exciting for the university. It's been around since like 1858. It's hard to imagine, but there's some really old buildings on that campus. And again, all these buildings you're seeing are part of Mars Hill University. And so we're climbing up through. We're going to hit a stoplight up here, which is kind of the main street. If you took a left, you'd go on Main Street, which is right on the east side of the campus. But then there's some private, like I said, business and stuff. We're sneaking along the right-hand side of these cars, taking a right turn on red, since there's nothing coming from our left. And now we're climbing out of Mars Hill on the south side of town. And then we could just stay on that South Main Street, but we kind of took a little jog off of it, like just for like a couple hundred yards, and now we're taking an alternative route back to our house. There's 3 ways we could get to our house from Mars Hill, and the most direct way would be just stay on that South Main Street, and it's a straight shot downhill. But instead, we went over to what's called Long Ridge, and Long Ridge is just a beautiful winding, and I think I let the camera run here for a good stretch because this is just such a cool descent. It's one of those twisty, windy, a few really sharp, I wouldn't quite call them hairpin corners, but close to it. And so you can really just kind of let it roll here, and not a lot of traffic. Most people don't take this route because there's faster, more direct routes to get up to Mars Hill than this one. So that's why we like taking it, because it's less busy, and it's gorgeous. We come up this one a lot too, because the climb up it's about a 4, 5, maybe up to 6% gradients at times. Not real bad, and it's just covered with trees, and it's real shady in the summertime, and you can see it's going down. It's as I would say is a hoot. You have to pay attention. It's one of those descents where it's exhilarating and fun, but also I found myself going into a few of these really sharp corners, maybe just a little faster than I'm comfortable with. And so, you got to kind of pay attention. And, when you let it roll, you pick up speed really easily. Just kind of work the tangents around those corners. If anybody gets to Mars Hill and wants to go for a bike ride, this would be the way I'd tell them to go out of Mars Hill. It's gorgeous. Roads were still a little damp just because it's shaded and it's morning, and so these are kind of on the northwest side of those ridges and tree line. So we didn't really let her rip on this descent because, I don't know, wet roads always make you think that they could just be a little slippery. Anyway, so now we're continuing on down Long Ridge, and we're actually going to hit Little Ivy River, which is really just, I've done some videos of how much destruction there was there. We're going back under I-26. The same interstate, obviously, we did the first couple miles into our ride. Now we're a couple miles from home. It's a different road, but we're going back under the interstate, just a few miles from where we went under it previously. Again, the road's kind of tore up here because of the flooding off to the right. That's the Little Ivy Creek that went through Barnardsville and just totally decimated Barnardsville. It went through this area right that we're about to cross here and devastated it. The bridge, this bridge, which is just a little tributary that runs into the Little Ivy River. Now we're going to take a right here at our stop yield sign. And we're going to cross the Little Ivy River, and there's still debris up on the bridge. I mean, the water was over this bridge during the flood. The bridge held. Thank goodness, because this is a major drag. Now, I-26 is right to the right, and so this is Old Mars Hill Highway again. So this was before the interstate. This was their highway that you got from Asheville to Mars Hill. Now we're taking off of Old Mars Hill Highway back onto Stockton Branch. This is that 2-mile stretch of downhill that we started on. You know, we came off out of our house onto Barnardsville Highway, and then we took a right onto Stockton Branch. Now we're doing it in the reverse direction. So now we've got 2 miles instead of a gradual downhill. We've got 2 miles of a gradual uphill to get back to Barnardsville Highway, also known as Highway 197. And so I think this is just the end of Stockton Branch, another one of those stop yield signs here, since we're coming on to Barnardsville Highway. So we're like maybe a quarter, 3/10 of a mile from our house here. And we did need to stop because there were a couple cars there, and so now we proceed with caution. And so now we just have a short little quarter mile back up on Barnardsville Highway, and we're looking for Ivy Hill Road. There it is, and we're going to gently take this corner, and now we have our little 150 yards up to our driveway. And again, it's a short, steep 8% climb, so we enjoy it coming down. Not so much enjoyable at the very end. I mean, if you're tired, having to come home up this steep little, it's only 150 yards though. pitch to get back into our driveway. Home sweet home. And so that was 41 miles. Took us a little over 2 hours. And a gorgeous day.
All right, finished up a 42-mile ride with Turbo Girl. Turbo Girl, any comments?
I'm hot.
Oh, it's getting warm out.
Beautiful day.
Must be in the upper 50s, sun shining, roads got dry, even though our bikes are trash now and I have to wash them, but it's all good.
Yeah. 2
Nice.
weeks to Christmas, is that right?
The Christmas this
Wow.
week, yeah, today's the 9th. Cool. Hey, see you later.